From the station working for you, this is WRTV News at 5:30, streaming now.
Now at 5:30, there are images that are hard to escape, especially for kids. Advice from experts about how to talk to your children about the violence witnessed this week in the nation's capital. And it's a day that could help bring a return to family visits and normalcy at one long-term care facility. Vaccines have arrived. Lindsay.
Topping our lineup, misinformation is stopping some from considering the vaccine. The new ways health leaders are fighting this. Getting the COVID vaccine into the arms of those who need it could be difficult depending on where people live. We're looking at what doctors are doing to make sure people in rural areas don't get left behind. The riot at the U.S. Capitol has online safety experts raising concerns about what your child could be seeing online, what to watch for with their social media access.
First at 5:30, scenes like this from Washington, D.C. are hard for adults to process. So what about our kids? Working for you, we spoke with child counselors and psychologists about how parents can best speak with their children about the D.C. riots. Most psychologists say you should make the conversation age appropriate for younger children. Speak with them about safety and explain how people disagree. For older children, have a more in-depth conversation about belief systems. No matter the age, parents should remember to approach the situation openly and give the child a chance to talk.
Parents need to obviously first make sure they have an understanding of what's going on and have a handle of their own emotions before talking to kids, because you don't want to go in there really angry and fire up and put our own thoughts in children's minds.
Making sure that we give them a voice of how they're experiencing and what they're feeling through all of this is really healthy, not only for emotional coping, but for them to kind of process through what they're seeing and hearing all around them.
These psychologists say parents should keep an eye out for physical signs of anxiety in children. For younger children, it often results in behavioral issues. In older children, it can include physical exhaustion, headaches, or fatigue. Police are investigating shots fired into the headquarters of the Tippecanoe County Democratic Party headquarters. It happened within hours of the storming of the Capitol in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday. The local party chairman said it happened sometime after the start of Wednesday's melee and before people arrived back at the Lafayette offices Thursday morning. She says it appears that at least 2 bullets went through glass in the front door and a few more went through a front window. Kyle.
The January gray continues across central Indiana. We had a little bit of some clearing across the western portion of the state earlier this afternoon, but those clouds filling right back in. We remain dry, though, just still on the chilly side here. We're at 29 degrees right now in Indianapolis, 35 in Lafayette with those gray skies, and you got cloudy conditions in Bloomington, as you can see there on the Weather Now camera. That wind between about 5 and 10 miles per hour. So yeah, it is giving us a little bit of a wind chill. What it feels like as you're out there this evening, lower 20s for a wind chill in Indianapolis and Columbus at 21. Actually feels like you're in the upper teens right now in the Richmond area. Here's a look at the satellite and radar, and there you can see that little bit of clearing that was around Lafayette and into Crawfordsville this afternoon, but we really kind of closed that gap in the clouds, and I do think we're going to keep that blanket of cloud cover for us as we go through tonight. That will keep our temperatures very steady here, upper 20s to around 30 degrees. North wind only around 5 to 10 miles per hour. As we take a quick look ahead to the weekend, we've got a temperature of 34 on Saturday. I think we will start to see those clouds moving out a little bit here as we go through the afternoon. And then on Sunday, partly sunny skies. Those temperatures still on the seasonably chilly side, but it does look like things are going to start to warm up. We'll talk about that in the extended forecast in just a little bit. Lindsay.
President Trump now says he's committed to a smooth transfer of power, but he won't be there to witness it. The president tweeting today he will not attend the inauguration. It'll be the first time in 152 years that an outgoing president has skipped his successor's swearing in. The president's change in tune on handing over power soon is a far cry from his speech Wednesday morning just before the attack at the Capitol.
We fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
Prosecutors responsible for bringing charges in the attack say they're looking at everyone that had a role. Scholars and experts believe the president's speech directly incited the violence.
And I think we see that in Trump's speech to the angry crowd on Wednesday. He encouraged them to march to the Capitol building right over there and fight. He used the words "and fight," which could be construed as an explicit call to lawless acts.
UConn professor Richard Wilson says incitement law requires 3 elements: directly advocating for a crime, the act has to be imminent, and it has to be realistic. In this case, it was. But when you look at past trials across the world trying to hold others responsible for incitement, there's a high acquittal rate.
Courts are very careful about freedom of expression. They want to allow democratic deliberation, including offensive ideas. And I get that.
People have walked on eggshells for so long around this sort of thing, and that we haven't called a spade a spade.
Kurt Braddock is an extremist group expert who believes people need to be held accountable for the things that they say that lead to violence. And America needs the importance of facts and truth reestablished.
Take responsibility for the things they say, and the results of those words is one of the things that allows us to get back to understanding that, yes, words have consequences, yes, facts matter, and yes, sometimes when people say things, it results in very, very damaging events.
There's also scrutiny over how law enforcement handled the violence. Now we've learned that days before the riot and Capitol break-in, the Pentagon and Justice Department offered National Guard and FBI manpower to Capitol Police, but were turned down. The violence has now claimed the life of a police officer who died of his injuries. The U.S. Capitol Police Chief has also resigned. Still ahead in our lineup, misinformation circulating online is proving to be a challenge to getting some people the COVID vaccine. Why health leaders say hearing why others are getting vaccinated is going to be key.
Floors to your home, that too.
More than 8,500 Hoosiers have died with COVID-19, and about half of those deaths have been at long-term care facilities, and that's why those facilities are among the first groups to get vaccinated. Today, staff and residents at Hoover Wood Living, an adult healthcare community on the north side, received their first doses of the COVID vaccine. The facility's CEO said this is a very important day for everyone, especially those who live there.
It's just one step closer to having families come back into the facility. This means the world to us. The doors closed back on March 9th, and this is the first step in the right direction for us to go back to somewhat of a normal way of life.
About 95% of the residents and half the staff were there to get the Moderna vaccine today.
In some parts of the country, the biggest challenge surrounding the COVID-19 vaccine is misinformation circulating online. Dan Grossman spoke with health leaders to see what they're doing to combat it.
Walk into Dr. Luke McWhorter's office and you'll see it.
It gets frustrating sometimes.
Pokes and jokes at something far more serious than the caricatures on his wall might suggest.
My job is to try to educate people with the knowledge that I have and try to reassure people that what they're doing is safe for them and for their loved ones.
Ever since the development of a vaccine, Dr. McWhorter has been getting questions, and lots of them.
The biggest concern's probably been new technology.
Many are legit, but others are based on claims, conspiracies even, making the rounds on social media.
mRNA vaccines will change your DNA. That is not possible for it to do that.
Definitely some of the 5G and the microchip misinformation.
Heidi Parker gets them too. She works for a nonprofit focused on combating misinformation in Nevada, one of the states with the lowest immunization rates among adults in the country.
We know that this vaccine is the tool that we need, to restore our communities and get past this pandemic.
It might sound obvious, but she says pushing out accurate information through credible sources like doctors and physicians is the best way forward. She acknowledges the small sector of our country that simply won't vaccinate themselves or their children, but says that cohort of people is small enough that it shouldn't impact the fact-driven base looking for accurate information to guide their decisions.
Seeing their peers get vaccinated and hearing from their peers why they made the decision to get vaccinated, I think is really key.
I had a sore arm for a few days, and that's been it.
Dr. McWhorter is a testament to that. Most of his staff has been vaccinated, and they can use their experiences to reassure those with questions that what they are doing is safe, helpful, and even altruistic.
For the greater good of the population, we need to get the vast majority of people vaccinated so that this pandemic will eventually end.
I'm Dan Grossman reporting.
More in our lineup. Our Chris Stewart is on assignment showing how for some getting the COVID vaccine where it needs to be takes careful coordination.
And all your brand new devices.
Mistakes that led to people not getting their most recent stimulus payments are getting cleared up. The IRS sent some payments for people who filed with tax prep businesses like TurboTax and H&R Block into wrong accounts. TurboTax said today it has fixed the issue and payments are on the way. H&R Block was able to correct things earlier this week. Your 2020 taxes are likely going to be a little bit more complicated this year, but it could mean extra cash back in your pocket. First off, no one will be taxed on stimulus payments, but if you only got partial stimulus payments or none at all, you may qualify now.
And that will generally be for taxpayers who were upper income in 2018 or 2019 and received a partial or no payment, but had their income decline in 2020. That might make them eligible for an additional payment that they can get on their tax return that is pretty easily calculated.
Another way people could qualify for stimulus money is if they reduce their 2020 income by contributing more to a retirement account. But at the same time, if you took money out of a retirement account to make it through the pandemic, it will be taxed as income. The COVID relief bill gave people an opportunity to contribute that money back into the account over 2 years, which helps your future taxes.
And so what happened there is as you contribute back, you would end up not having to owe tax on the amount that you had originally contributed. Originally withdrew as part of dealing with the pandemic.
You may also qualify for additional stimulus on your 2020 taxes if you had a baby in 2020 or your payment was lost. Young adults who may be filing their taxes on their own for the first time that were left out of stimulus could qualify now. There were several other tax breaks extended in the COVID relief bill, including for helping parents helping pay for their children's college and those with mortgage insurance premiums. Sadly, for most families, you can't deduct virtual work or school costs unless someone is an independent contractor or self-employed. Unemployment is taxable, but most is automatically withdrawn before it's paid to you unless you opted out, so be sure to check on that.
The Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum is once again welcoming guests. It reopened today at 25% capacity. The museum closed in November due to the rapid increase in COVID-19 cases. The plan is to be open 10 to 4 daily until March 1st, when hours will expand to 9 to 5. The Kiss the Bricks track tours also resumed today. Kyle, a gloomy day, though, to be at the track.
A little gloomy, but you know, we are now 141 days from race day and making it away around the oval out there. Not too far away, right? We will be making our way into some warmer temperatures, but you know, we are actually heading into our coldest time of year with our average temperatures ranging from a high of 35 to an average low of 20. That's the period of January 10th to the 19th. This year, though, it does look like that period is going to start off a little bit warmer, a little bit above average here as we get into early next week. There's that average number in the middle 30s, right at 35, and you'll see those numbers will climb to around 40 degrees as we get toward the middle part of next week. Right now, feels pretty January-like out there. We've got 29 degrees in Indy. You're at the freezing mark in Shelbyville and 28 in Kokomo. Again, it does feel a little bit colder than that because we've got that north breeze. So in some locations, that wind chill's a little closer to 20. We check out TrueCast tomorrow morning. Still quite a bit of cloud cover, but you do see some hints of sunshine returning to the area. And I think we will see some brighter skies as we go into the second half of our Saturday. But then we get into Saturday evening, and look at that. Doesn't take too long, and those clouds are streaming back in. But it is going to remain a very quiet weather pattern. Really, the storm flow is well off to the south, and that's taking storm systems south of us and keeping our weather pattern from really changing a whole lot. But on Saturday, we'll go from those mostly cloudy skies, temperatures that start in the mid-20s. We'll get to the mid-30s tomorrow, but we'll mix in a little more sunshine. So it's still going to be chilly out there, but at least it'll look a little nicer. At 35, your high in Bloomington, 34 in Indy, and right around 31, so the lower 30s in Lafayette. On Sunday, mix of sun and clouds out there for us once again. Temperatures start off a little bit colder in the lower 20s, and we'll get into the middle 30s for that afternoon high. Check the 7-day planning forecast now, and temperatures remain seasonable here as we go into the early part of the week. 37 there on Monday, mix of sun and clouds, partly sunny skies Tuesday, but there's that 40-degree reading, and we'll be into the lower to possibly a couple of areas getting in the middle 40s by Thursday. Lindsay?
Distributing the vaccine is proving to be a challenge. For remote parts of America, receiving the vaccine may feel even further from reality. Chris Stewart is in a rural part of Michigan with a look at the lengths that people are taking all over the country to make sure the vaccine reaches very rural areas.
It's easy to live life at a distance here in Alpena, Michigan. This tiny city is hours from any major metropolitan area. And that's why now that there is a COVID vaccine available, doctors are making sure that distance isn't a problem. This pandemic is a journey.
Well, we have a precious cargo, so this vaccine is very temperature sensitive.
Brian Cross is making some of its most important trips.
We got to make sure it maintains a very specific temperature. Can't be shaken at all.
Riding shotgun in this pharmacist's car are 500 doses of Pfizer's COVID vaccine.
We kind of treat it like a baby here in the front seat and hand deliver it to each of our pharmacies.
He works for Mid-Michigan Health. The company runs a handful of hospitals in central and northern Michigan. Today, some of these vaccines are headed to the most isolated hospital in the state, in Alpena.
We're pretty fortunate in Michigan. We have a map, you know, right at our fingertips, right? So when you look at Michigan, we're way up here.
While geography may make this area feel far away, when it comes to vaccinating, it is not behind.
Some of the first in the country to receive their second dose.
This week, hundreds of healthcare workers are receiving their final dose of the vaccine 3 weeks after receiving their first, like ICU nurse Katrina Farley.
My hardest part is sitting with someone when they're passing, you know, without family there.
Do you know how many times you've had to do that?
Many. Within the next couple of weeks, the vaccine is expected to give her 95% immunity to coronavirus. If this is the little bit I can do to protect the rest of the people, that's what I want to do. When handling the vaccine, the clock is always ticking. Mid-Michigan Health has one special freezer that can keep the vaccine at the desired 94 degrees below zero. They provided us this video of the vaccine being put into it.
In the freezer, it's good for 6 months. And then once it's out of the freezer in a refrigerator, it's good for 5 days.
That freezer is located about 3 hours south of Alpena. So it's up to people like Brian Cross to drive the doses to hospitals to make sure none are wasted.
It's very time sensitive, so we have to make these trips a little more thoughtful so that we don't waste any of the vaccine.
There are concerns rural communities will fall behind in vaccinating. Some don't have that special freezer like Mid-Michigan Health.
If we were on our own, a small rural hospital in northern Michigan, it would be very difficult for us to probably navigate this whole process.
Next week, Dr. Bates hopes they can start vaccinating members of the community who are at a higher risk for coronavirus complications like those over the age of 65. He's seen the power of these little vials that the world has been waiting for.
One of my favorite stories is one of our nurses here wanted her picture taken when she was getting her vaccine, and she said, you know, I want to send this to my mother, my family, because this is telling them that next year is going to be different. And that was good. That was really good, powerful.
He's talking about ICU nurse Katrina Farley, who hasn't seen her mom in a year.
We're planning a couple weeks from now. I want to make sure we're 100%, and then I'll get together with her and do Christmas.
She says the vaccine will help her continue to care for those suffering from the virus. Work she'll continue until the journey of the pandemic is done.
There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and we're going to beat COVID. We are. This is going to be time. It's going to take time.
In Alpena, Michigan, I'm Chris Stewart reporting.
Finally, in our lineup, safety experts are raising concerns about what your child could be seeing online following the riot at the U.S. Capitol. The questions you should be asking and what to watch for.
Right now.
Online safety experts are warning about what information kids could be seeing following the riot at the U.S. Capitol. President Trump is blocked from posting on Facebook and Instagram at least through the inauguration. Snapchat has locked the president's account for now. YouTube is also saying it will suspend any channel posting new videos that spread misinformation about widespread voter fraud. This may have more people turning to social media sites like Parler. It's one site where people had been posting about the riot. We've told you how it's been getting more popular with people who are conservative leaning, particularly following the election.
I don't think children are going to gravitate towards Parler. It's not cool in their eyes. If their parents there, they're not going to be there. It's not cool. But these organizations and these people that are spreading information and don't have the best reasons in mind to contact children will be going to places like TikTok where the kids are.
But kids still could be talking about Parler. Titania Jordan with an online safety company, Bark Technologies, is concerned about the hate speech and calls for violence that can be on these sites. Parler has not responded to the situation at the Capitol. It says on its website, it's a place to speak freely and express yourself openly.
Platforms like Parler and others that aren't as good about moderation and protecting children from violent and inappropriate content can basically feed your children any information, and it's not necessarily accurate.
She says it's important to have a conversation with your kids about what media they're encountering. If they're showing an unusually and intense interest in politics and world events, ask where they're getting their information. One thing you may want to consider is having parental controls in place for app downloads. As some continue to work from home, the hard chairs and makeshift work desks we're using are affecting us over the long haul. Monday, advice from the experts on whether you should be worried about any permanent harm to your body.
Skies staying cloudy for us tonight, so not much change there. Temperatures just a little bit colder as we'll dip down to about 26. And then tomorrow, do expect after some morning clouds, we'll see a little bit of afternoon sunshine. Our temperature at 34, really not too different from what the Colts will experience as they get ready to take on the Bills in Buffalo tomorrow. That kickoff just after 1 o'clock. Looks like they'll have a mix of sun and clouds there, and 35 degrees with a light northwest wind. Thanks for joining us here at 5:30. The news at 6 starts now.